Welcome to the Mentors Office podcast. In today's episode, we welcome Andres Angelani. Andres Angelani is a seasoned technology executive with a remarkable track record for bringing dynamic new software and products to market and delivering scalable solutions that adapt to market conditions along with evolving client needs. Most recently, he ran digital transformation and served on the board of directors at Speedcasts, a leading communications and IT services provider. Prior to Speedcast, Andres served as the CEO of Cognizant Softvision, the premium digital engineering arm of Cognizant, a Fortune 200 leader in technology services. At Cognizant Softvision, Andres spearheaded significant growth via client development and acquisition, overseeing software product engineering for Cognizant's multi-billion global business unit. Previously to this, Andres was an early pioneer at Globant, where he led key markets and client relationships in a variety of global roles, such as Chief Solutions Officer. Beyond these executive roles, Andres is recognized as an acclaimed author, speaker, and a thought leader in digital innovation. Welcome, Andres. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And well, I'm pretty excited about this interview because you are the new CEO of Wiseline, and I want to use this time to learn and also that our audience can learn from you and we can give our best to win at Wiseline.
No, it's a
And
pleasure. You're also a Wiseliner, so that's it's a special place.
and I want to start this interview with a story about how did you become Wiseline CEO?
Great. So it was kind of a long process, actually. I've first I knew of Wiseline when I was leading digital engineering Cognizant, and it was a process where it was a time where we were buying lots of companies. It was a kind of a high kind of acquisitive moment in the company's history. So we were meeting a lot of companies, and Wiseline was one of our meetings. And I really was impressed by the engineering quality, the vision of the founder, given the size of the company, right? So I thought, well, the company's small, but big vision here, and just gave me that impression. I had a few people. Obviously, this company, this space is not very large at the top, and people, and I happen to know a few of the executives, and I actually met Bismarck for the first time, and this was like probably 5 years ago. So then, life continued. I left Cognizant about a year and a half ago, 2 years now. My God, time flies. And I started to do, what I like, which was, transformation programs. And Speaka was a company. It's a company that I'm on the board of. I'm still on the board, and they asked me, okay, why don't you come over here to help us, because we have a bunch of products we want to launch, and there's a lot of software involved, and we don't know how to really build teams, etc. So I actually went to Wiseline. I used Wiseline to build teams there. So I experienced the firsthand what Wiseline could do in that context, which was a separate context. And that led me to, I was doing CEO advisory as well for like CEO of smaller companies. And Bismarck invited me to be his CEO advisor. So I started to work with him. And then I ended up meeting the investors, and kind of one thing led to another. And it's like, hey, the question came up and say, we want to scale the company. Would you like to, step in as CEO? I will move on to become chairman. And it worked out. It was very fast when they came out with the idea. I was wrapping up my my digital transformation program, the last one I did. So it was like perfect timing. And we wrapped up in like 3-4 weeks. That were already kind of, they gave me an offer, and I was already thinking about the start date. But it was kind of a process that then accelerated very rapidly. But it was not coached or thought that way, because I never thought. I thought, well, maybe I'm gonna end up working with some investors, building some sort of tech vertical tech practice. I was heading in that direction, and it just diverted into, okay, let's go and do a CEO role, which is what I really love. So it kind of turned out great in the end.
And now you're the CEO at Wiseline.
Yeah.
What are the most challenging things that you're dealing with now at the beginning as a CEO?
So, I mean, we have to think that Wiseline started organically and grew organically, never bought a company. So it's pretty pure. So the company is modeled after the vision of the founder. So always taking over a founder, I've done it before. It's always a challenge, no matter how good the relationship is between us. It's always a challenge because you have to fill those big shoes. He's great. He's a great leader. And now it's my turn to scale this up, right? So, redefine it, mature it, scale it up. So like any company of the size, we really need to strengthen things right now that aren't that creative, right? So some of the things that we will continue to do are very creative, but there are certain things that we need to kind of strengthen, not too creative, so strengthening them means that we can maximize our creativity at a larger scale. So
Could you
that's
give
where.
us an example of one of
So
those?
an example is metrics on projects, right? Nobody likes to have consistency around, nobody cares about, the project. It's not a fun thing to do, but value needs to be measured. And here we measure it, but it's not that consistent. So that's one of the things. Like, there are things that it's like a scaffolding that you have to put in the company so that when it gets bigger, the value doesn't dilute, and you can keep being strategic and then become a strategic partner at a larger scale with a client. So that's probably kind of where, a lot of people kind of have to rethink as the company evolves. Okay, why are we doing certain things that, and it's not about institutionalizing heavy process. It's nothing to do with like that. It's just gaining that consistency so that, there is a culture, a strong culture, that when any other, as you hire a lot of other people that, external communities, and you start growing those clients, it's always Wiseline. It doesn't become something else, right? So it's about product engineering. It's about infusing AI. It's about, maximizing the value of the client. It's about challenging the client productively. All these things that Wiseline, normally does at a smaller form, need to also replicate and work out at a much bigger scale. So that's the challenge, really. Stay true to the vision, but do it at a level of scale that makes the company much more valuable, and also, provides opportunities for a lot of other people to grow their careers.
Yeah,
Make sense?
definitely scaling is something that is very complicated, but well, you're very experienced. I know that you're gonna have a you're gonna do really well on that front. And well, you are now the new CEO, and always different CEOs have, let's say, different ways to do things or different strategies. And what is one thing that you would change about Wiseline?
So, I mean, the company, what I love about it is it has an intrinsic innovation gene in it. Like, it's built in, like, from the birth, right? So it's just you coming with that. So everybody's just doing a lot of things. But what we think we need to do better is we need to articulate enough or more effectively so that every client can get, the consulting mindset, right? So, and it's not about what we need to stop doing or do more. It's about how we articulate it, how we find the value, what's the angle, to explain opportunities to improve project health, opportunities to maximize outcomes, opportunities to leverage new trends and technologies. All these things that are very typical in our day to day, we do it all the time internally, need to also be played at large externally, either external communities or the client itself. But we need to do it in a way that differently. It's not the same as saying, oh, well, I'm just going to do this. That's what we do internally, and you're allowed to do it. The client is different. It needs to be narrated around a context of outcome. It needs to be around narrated around a context of value application, when it's if it's priority or not, whether it makes sense to execute now or in the next iteration. All these things that seem like, yeah, not that straightforward for in that we need to really understand that boundary and articulate it so the client catches it. And I think we're a bit shy, really, in just expressing ourselves in that way. But it's a muscle that needs to be practiced, right? And this is something that for all people, like delivery and technology, both working together, better together to express ourselves better. But because that actually builds a better company, really. And if we can express ourselves with order, with grace, the client will always consider us as strategic, no matter how big or small we are at a given point of time in that particularly relationship. If the client gets the value, I guarantee that the growth is it comes from that, because they want to engage with people that provide solutions, right?
And how can like we as employees and people develop that form of communication or expressing better that
Yeah,
value?
so there are a few ways. So the first one is through coaching. So we're gonna definitely coach on mindset, on consulting mindset, on from every role. So if I'm a project manager or if I'm a technology leader, how is it that what could I do? This is something I'm going to kick off myself. I'm starting to record a few videos for internal use for everybody,
Awesome.
but also we're gonna use Academy to impart the knowledge and have some practice work in a fun way, so it's not like taxing, right? But so from my point of view as a delivery leader, as a technology leader, as an engineer, right, or a PM, or even project associate, when I discover an issue or a potential risk, what is it? How can I articulate that? And then when I discover an opportunity, it's normally two categories. You're seeing what's going on in the project, and there are challenges, things that are not working as they should, or they're performing substandard. And there are other things that are opportunities. Hey, what about this? Right? That needs to be articulated in a way that the client can understand it in the right moment, with the right audience. So all that is part of the coaching. And I'm not saying that we don't have people that don't do this, but we
Right.
just need to generalize it. Everybody should be able to articulate this in a polished, so to speak, right? Polished way, understanding, all the 360 around, doing things that are not exactly what the client asks you to do. Make sense?
Yeah. And do you have any book recommendations or I don't know podcasts that are relevant? I know that you have a book that you wrote.
Yeah, so
Just
that
talking
is
about.
pretty relevant for this question. It's called Transforming While Performing. It's about really changing dynamics of the partnership with the client, and with building partnerships of value, and what you're supposed to look at, and how do you build communities, and how do you incentives. So that's one I would recommend. There are a bunch of books around consultative solutioning, and nothing comes to mind right now, but I mean, there's a lot of documentation. What I think it's important is just to do it around a practical, real case. And
Yeah.
that's something that we are gonna definitely take the initiative and start doing it internally, because that way we start sharing from each other. Hey, we did this, we were having these challenges, we figured out a way to communicate an alternative to the client. We went in, we delivered it this way, we changed the flow, and that produced this impact. That kind of example, as we start sharing these stories, people just, and then in the right environment, they normally learn. In my past job, we had something that we called the clinic, and the clinic where we just looked at all these these stories of real stories and approaches, and what kind of parameters are and how do you articulate them, etc., etc. And that kind of becomes kind of culture, right? You start to appreciate other people kind of moving the needle in a customer relationship to become more strategic, and end up, if you communicate how you did it, then others start to copy and then expressing their own experiences, and that's kind of it self evolves, right?
Yeah, I
uh,
agree. That it's really useful to listen what others are doing, to learn from them. And another thing that maybe could be useful is internally at Wiseline we have a club that's called Toastmasters. I don't know if you have heard about Toastmasters,
I have, yeah.
but it's a like a non-profit organization to develop leadership and communication skills. I think that maybe that could be another advice that I could give people that
It's
that
great
can
to
help
have
me through
vehicles like that.
communication.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great to have vehicles. We're definitely going to leverage everything that we have, right? So, we need to be in all the different channels. As I'm doing this, we could probably bring practice leaders here to talk about, their approaches. Just look at you can definitely have a big audience here, just stakeholders and leaders and clients just going through a podcast. It's a great channel to
Definitely.
express views, right?
Yeah, I love it because for me it's a great way to learn podcasts
Yeah.
and to interact and to learn with from other leaders within the company and also outside. I think it's also an amazing tool. And going to another topic, I listened to one of the podcast episodes that you made, and you talk about one of the things that you wish you have known before becoming a CEO was that the team is really important, or that the team is like at the core. When you have a big organization, like there's not so much that you can do individually. It's really how you can manage the team and perform the team perform with the team. What does a great employee look like, and what do you expect from employees to have that great
Um,
team?
yeah. So, I mean, from any role, in terms of hard skills, you can be skilled superstar, right? I mean, that makes you good, but not great, So there's an aspect of greatness that I think that greatness is in the engagement, the ability to be proactive and engaged, and really connected to a vision and challenging that vision. That makes leaders really. That's the greatness that I'm normally looking for. Initiative, hey, why don't we do this, why don't we do that? That kind of that uneasiness about just staying in the status quo is what I'm looking for, but in a productive way, right? So there are people that they're everything is complaint destructive. That's normally not engaging. It doesn't engage anybody. But you want to do something, and maybe it's not the right time or the right place to do it. However, you always find context where you want to do is applicable. That's the part of greatness and what makes really great leaders, because they will always have a followership because they're always looking into the positive, right? um, don't in don't misinterpret. I really value the skill, like the good engineers, good
Yeah,
designers, good product people,
yeah,
great.
but it's not enough.
But it's not, doesn't make greatness, right? It's
Yeah,
the aura around the team. It's about the ability to communicate, collaborate, the ability to kind of think about the team and not themselves. And that's what really inspires, because at the end of the day, that when it's that in aggregate, you create the right company, the right business, right? In aggregate, if people are looking at the bigger picture, and then the benefit to the individual comes is like consequential. You definitely get a bigger enterprise value. At the end of the day, reap the benefits, but just doing that indirectly and not so much about seeking that self kind of courted retribution, which is short-sighted in my opinion. I always wanted to be part of something bigger, right? So when I was at Globant, it was just an idea. I was one of the very few people in the beginning of the company, and I left Argentina, which is my country birth. I went for the UK, and we built an office. We didn't have anything. We didn't have any clients. We only had one client where we're doing infrastructure management, and then which nothing to do with software. And we started with the first software client. Then I came to California and continued growing the company. But I didn't do it. I was doing it to build the business, to help build the business. And that actually at the end of the day paid off, right? Soft Vision was the same. We actually sold to to Cognizant for a really good number, and it was because we just really concentrated, built a team, built several teams underneath, and grew it to become strategic for a buyer. And that happened, and then we stayed 4 years continuing to grow the company. So it's always about building, right? Just building value. And you can't do it yourself. It's just something that you have to have a team. So in my, what I'm proud about is like, not about what I've done, but it's like a lot of people that still work with me. Like, I've moved around and people left jobs, and we ended up kind of, crowding again. And then I always build more as I need more, like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
some of the global guys, some of them are still with me. I have soft vision people now, new. Now I'm building my Wiseline core, and it's just kind of builds up, but it gives you more strength, because then you have you know I totally acknowledge that I'm not a king. I can't just do, it's all about the team.
I agree. And yeah, definitely having a value creation mindset is really important. And like I remembered a quote from Fred Kaufman, that is a consultant, and he usually says that many people don't know that your job is not your job. Because, for example, many people in a, I don't know, in a football team, they think that okay, you are a defender, then your job is to defend. But actually, your job is not to defend, but to help the team win, right?
That's your
And
job.
I think that is something that sometimes, because we are in the routine, we forget that it's not like I'm a software engineer at Wiseline. My my real job is not a software engineer at Wiseline. My job is to help the company succeed and to accomplish the mission.
Yeah, I mean, I like this term, growth mindset, right? So when teams have growth mindset, and it's the project team, right? I mean, the team that's doing the job, that's normally where magic happens, because they pick up on what they need to do, how is it they position things for the client, what happens if the client is not understanding, how they escalate it, so that, either sales or delivery leaders or technology leaders come in, practice leaders come in, but it's pull, not push. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They pull into that team. That's growth mindset, and that's part of that consultative kind of aura of the team, that we need a little bit of tweaking of formalization, so to speak, right? But it's just that, I mean, we have great talent, and
And
when
what advice would you give to a person maybe in an entry level or junior position that sometimes like it's not that easy to see how you create value there?
Yeah, so one of the things we want to do is make sure that all the new entrants really understand they can go for advice, or when they have an idea, right? And it's not that clear. So we're gonna I commit, I've said it in the forums, to make it very clear and very simple, so that I know who to go to locally, normally, to say, okay, how do I figure this out? I mean, we have a problem, or we have an opportunity or a challenge, and I want to do it. So that's the first thing. But also offer a local team, strengthen those local teams to make sure that everybody knows what resources are available in the company for learning, for coaching, for development, right? We have a lot of, I mean, I think we have a wealth of resources. I don't know if we are, I mean, I'm not sure if we are leveraging everything we have, right? So, and if the things that we have are kind of strategically placed in front of people, so that we really follow their career trajectory as as themselves, as people, as like a person, and not as like a process. You know what I mean? It's not robotical, this thing. It's just about understanding, okay, you know, you have, let's say, soft skills development, great communication skills. Okay, fantastic. How do we add to it? How do we give him or her more exposure? How do we augment that? It's personalized. It's not about, oh, these are all the things that you're supposed to do. I mean, yeah, the job will give you certain things that you need to do, but the special sauce comes with personalizing the experience, so that then you grow and you discover the strengths. A lot of in what I found is that sometimes, and it just happened to me too, we don't know exactly what we are really, really strong at. We think that we know, but normally evidence is what actually proves that actually I'm actually pretty good at this, and I'd never thought about it. Right? So all that, or maybe the opposite. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm great at this, and I'm not. Like, I mean, I've coded, I still develop, right? I'm a coder. I like it, I enjoy it. I'm not great though. I knew it from the very beginning. I'm okay, but I'm not a great coder, right? My algorithms are not the most efficient. I'm not up to date in every single thing. Obviously, especially now, I'm pretty
Yeah.
rusty now. But in the beginning of my career, I wasn't the greatest, but I was good at leading, communicating, figuring out what the client wanted, convincing the client. I was good at that, right? And I thought I hated doing it. I feel
Really.
like that's not me. I'd like to be kind of left alone. Actually, no. I mean, that's what I was actually good at. So it's those things that you sometimes you have to think about. What what can I do that I may not have thought before that my strength. And for that, you kind of need a few coaches, right? That kind of show you the way. It's like, hey, what about this? Look at what you did here. Really? And it's like, what? Really? That is very interesting. I really like to discover like that of people.
That is very very good advice. I agree. In my case, in one of my past jobs, one of my first jobs, actually faced that I felt that the job that I was doing was adding zero value, and I was not liking it. And if I had apply a more proactive and maybe consultative mindset at that very junior position of, okay, what else can I look for, ask for other opportunities or look for problems and try to solve them inside the company, I think that would have made a bigger difference and would have helped me a lot, definitely.
Yeah.
And well, we already talked about what a great employee looks like, but something that is really really important is motivation and purpose, because we can
Yeah.
ask people to things, but really what moves people is purpose.
Hmm.
What is your vision for Wiseline, and what level of growth do you hope to see in the next 5 years,
Yeah.
Andres?
So this is a very interesting time in the service industry right now because we're kind of redefining what good looks like, right? So why is that? Because, well, obviously trends normally in services, they sort of shift the earth, underneath us, and we kind of have to adapt, right? Um, Services that doesn't create products, they leverage products and they customize and they modify and they create solutions. Normally that's what happens with services, but normally we don't create technology from the ground up. I mean, that's for the R&D to come up with. And what happened now in this last few years is that AI has proven that it can reach masses. Gen AI, that's, I mean, from my perspective, is that's the differentiator. AI has been here for a long time, but it was something that was very restricted to data scientists, to specialized forums and audiences. And when somebody launched the chat, and then all of a sudden then the thing can write a book, then people like their heads exploded. So that's when we all like, that's why. But I mean, we had these things before. It's not that we just put a humanized friendly interface so that everybody could actually write their own essay and just make it make their writing better. And that's how we started. But it's way bigger than that. For us in our services, it allows us to be a lot more productive. So that's the opportunity, and also discover industry patterns that we could basically productize ourselves to accelerate implementations, design, etc. So the nature of services is changing, and the large companies are struggling. And I'm happy to be in a mid-sized company because our size, we can be very fast and very agile, and we can change and we can incorporate assets, build it ourselves.
Right.
The fact that we have an innovation gene, that we come from product, is also very important because that's built into the culture, and I really appreciate that. When you're large, it's very difficult to change and shift, especially existing contracts with clients who are very large. You have different commitments. It's very, very hard to turn those into, pivot them into a different model, right? So where I'm going at is that we have a great opportunity. I think we will be a challenger, right, in the service space, which will show that things can be done differently. The commercial models are different, that we're going to be way more solution oriented, productized, way more focused on productivity, and just prove that we can do a lot more with less. And then throughout collaboration in some industries, I'm not saying that we have the breadth to do it with all industries. We're really going to be strong in offering these acceleration to specific use cases that we either develop ourselves, integrate partners, third parties, or co-develop with our clients. As you know, what I'm talking about is the Air Plus framework. But the reality is that at the core of that, and I just actually recorded a video explains this very well, and not very well, it explains it more extensively than I'm going to say right now, is that the R's are three things really. Is the ability for us to ready the customer, because one thing is to come up with these gizmos and little things and agents that give you a quick win, but then as the closer you get to the core of the business, AI application, applied AI becomes more risky, and you need to put more investment in it. That's where services come in, right? It's not just about plug and play and you're gonna just put something on top, and then all of a sudden you're gonna have your data lake shift data to a service in the cloud somewhere, and then you're going to trust that black box is going to give you the right decisions. That is not going to be like that in the enterprise, in the bigger industry. Think about shipping, a manufacturing company, for example, shipping parts that are wrong, a logistics framework, network that doesn't work anymore, and even worse, healthcare that misdiagnosing. So I mean, these things are not going to be, the humans are not going to let these things to happen. But we are kind of inching into a world where we're going to have a lot of more AI as part of the decision making, as part of the experience, etc. So in order to get there to the core, that's where we, that's the role. So that's where I think there's huge opportunities for us to become that glue in the middle of, okay, here's my data lake. It's not contextualized. It doesn't have the right semantics. Here's the services on the cloud. How do we make these things talk to each other in a secure, responsible way? And how do I train my people? How do a product manager is going to work with a set of tools that are not the same as now. The developer, probably the more advanced we've seen so far in generated code is because the developer kind of has a copilot, but that's just one tool, right? I mean, there's a lot more for testing, deployment, monitoring with DevOps. All these architectures are going to start converging. We have practices for each of these things, right? So readiness is somewhere where we can shine because we are agnostic. We are not vendor neutral. We don't favor one particular software vendor over another. We just advise. So readiness, we are the agent of readiness, right? The other R is results, right? So in terms of, okay, whether AI works or not, okay, if we have evidence and if we have practical application across our hundreds of projects, then we have evidence. And not everybody, even if you're a large company, you can't collect everything the same way that we are collecting evidence, right? We are doing it in a very specialized way that allows us to repurpose that and then accelerate. And that's kind of the course, which is, all these accelerators are applied to some specific use case. These are the results. This is the potential. This is the application. By the way, here's a sandbox where you can pull from, right? So that's results. And the other one is the responsibility case, which is, it's not ethereal, right? People think, oh, responsibility, they're just putting it there because it's ethereal. No, responsibility is about all the training and making sure that we do have AI engineers, right? So that we have AI enabled engineers. that we have an AI enabled product managers, we have AI enabled designers. That's the responsibility piece. And for that, we already have another asset, which is Wise Academy, so that we are really use the structured delivery mechanism of Wise Academy to start framing, coursework connected to the career profile for each particular core role, where things that you need to learn about, certain tools that we've kind of vetted to use in projects, right? According to your role. But the most important thing is how your role connects to other roles, right? So in a team, how does the whole thing, compounds, right? So I think, long-winded, but there are three things, right? There are three-dimensional impacts. The readiness part, obviously, outcomes, results. And the third one, the responsibility case, is something that I'm very passionate about, because we can extend the enabling, the training, the assessment over to clients' communities as well. So it's not just for us. We've been structuring learning for a long time. I mean, Academy has been doing skilled building for a long time. It's not the first time, and we've done it in other disciplines. So now, having an asset like that is very interesting, because we can really give it a bigger purpose than
I agree.
before.
And now that you mentioned academy and yeah, talent development, one part that we like to talk about in this podcast is career development.
Mhm.
What is the most valuable career advice that you have ever received, or that you have?
Um, I mean, it's probably the advice of life, but I got it from my dad, who's an entrepreneur, and he never went to. I mean, he went to primary school. That's it. He didn't have
Wow.
an education. He's a first generation immigrant, Italian immigrant in Argentina, and he said, "You just be bold. Just if you have an idea, just go do it." Be bold. It's like, sometimes, I can't. No, yeah, you can't. Just try. If you fail, stand up, move on. That's the type of, if you think about it, if we are bold, we are able to develop things that we didn't think we were able to. And a lot of people overthink, right? Just like, no, I won't be able to do it. And sometimes that internal negativity, takes you. Just be bold. Very simple career advice. And I try to be bold as much as I could. you know?
And can you give us maybe an example in your career? When were you
Yeah.
bold?
So, I mean, I was, and this is a very personal example, but I'm going to just tell it. And I've said it before in some other public forums. I had spent 15 years at Globant, and I was very important person there. Like, I created practices, I built
Wow.
businesses, I had the best clients, and I was not happy with the way that I was. My own personal development was growing. It had been a long time, and I was seeing that I was kind of flattening in the ability to learn more and develop myself. So I left. It's as simple as that. And it was very hard to
And
leave.
was it a long decision, or was it quick?
It was a long time coming decision, because I had been putting it off, but I was not fully satisfied. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I thought, I'm kind of playing a role of a CEO here, but I'm not officially a CEO. And I know that I have opportunities to be CEO, and I passed on a lot of them. And then I started to get a little bit of FOMO, which became big, right? So fear of missing out on that thrill of just being, captain of your own ship. And so somebody else called at one point, and I said, "What the hell, you know?" Do it. And then I quit, and it was extremely hard, because everybody was calling me like, "You're absolutely crazy. You're not going to work out." A lot of people just started to kind of, bring you down, right? So you stay and offering things and all that. I'm like, no, you know. I'm just gonna have to prove myself. And if I fail, then I'll be proud because I still, I have balls. I said to myself to be, I'm just at least if I fail, I'm gonna prove that I had them. I had them to make the step, and I did. And it was a very, when you're in a position where you're so well protected, so well revered that that is solid, but it was tiring. There are people that are restless, and in my case, I am one of those. So I just had to go and move on, and I did. And I don't regret it. It worked out. It was very hard
Yeah,
in the beginning months. It's not easy, very challenging. There was a lot of familial, like a lot of connection. I still have it in my heart. That brand is still buried in my heart because I kind of was one of the legs that built it, right? um, but
amazing.
but I moved on, you know.
Amazing story. Amazing story. And following up with this career development, can you share us your top three rules of success?
Yeah, so I mean, clarity of vision, it's not just about vision, it's about how to explain the vision, right? Where is that we differentiate? What's happening with the business? What's happening in the market, right? Clarity of vision. So define what we want and be very transparent. That's number one. And number two is engagement. I think it's just team building, as and we talked about this, which is, build those teams that kind of passionately embrace future state and help you expand the vision and make it executable programmatically, measured, as you're going down the organizational structure. So it's the team, the key, right? They normally help craft it, refine, make it real, scale it. In this case, there's a lot of scaling of the vision that we need to do, right? So teams, and then to be honest, I mean, third one is relentless execution. When you fall, just somebody's gonna, don't wait for somebody to wake you up or like pick you up. It's just stand up, just move on. And perseverance, so it's so important when we're changing the game, because you're gonna get days where like shit, the client didn't bite, didn't believe, or we screwed it up, or just this project is delayed, or many things, or somebody left the company because they didn't believe anymore. There's many things like those that just move it, move on. Sometimes it's like just continue, and perseverance is absolutely key for success. There are people that, I mean, I think,
Definitely.
I've been hearing, I think I was hearing the other time, and I really believe that normally the one of the secrets of success is the, if probably the strongest, is that relentless, execution. And every success that at least I was part of, that was kind of one of the pillars. Of course, vision, you can't just sell something nobody wants, but it's about, it's about just executing, just
Yeah, how to recover from failures or
yeah,
not getting the result that you want.
yeah.
Definitely, yeah, something that I have heard
Yeah,
12
I mean,
times
sometimes you can
from
take a few
champions.
days. Like, I mean, things, shit happens, and but then you recover, just like that, and then you
Yeah,
continue. That's the spirit, right?
I agree. I agree. Yeah, just like one time that I heard an interview from Kobe Bryant, that famous basketball player, and he said they told him like how did he felt when he lost his championship, and he said it sucks, but I'm gonna stop thinking about it, and for us the season starts tomorrow to win the next championship. I
Yeah,
think that that's definitely the mindset.
yeah. I always say, I mean, feeling bad has a timeout. Okay, right, fine. I cried, feel bad, felt bad. Timeout. Move on.
Yeah, that's definitely a really important trait and skill,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
And now we're going to another part of this podcast that I really like, that is the audience questions. We have a lot of Wiseliners and other people that wanted to ask you some questions. The first question, Andres, is apart from Wiseline, what other technology companies excite you? If it could be for their vision, leadership, culture.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be boring and just say that I like Google. I mean, but there are a lot of companies in the valley that really, a lot of product companies that I think that are just pushing the envelope. I'm looking at a lot of the hyperscalers right now, Amazon and Google, because they are actually bringing the services of AI at scale. So I'm excited looking at and just trying to partner with them in a way that's productive to them so we can help them innovate. But those are the ones that we need to probably look at. And also, I can't mention, there are many names of smaller companies that are building tooling for this that we definitely have to partner with. So the key is to build an ecosystem where we actually can pick and choose, and the relationships are very important. From services perspective, I mean, companies always kind of, they are, because I'm coming from products, but mostly from services, is that, and especially in the tech space, companies shine for a while, if you know what I mean. It's not permanent. So I admire the big ones. I was happy to be part of Globant. I don't think that Globant is shining the way that it used to shine, right? I mean, there are companies like Accenture where, like, they're huge and they've got big, that they shined in their time, but no longer are attractive enough. So there's time for everything. I think that it's our moment to shine in our size right now. And that's why I'm gonna try and build teams to make it happen. Work with all you to make it happen. But it's very interesting to be in this size at the moment. Size does matter now when we need to, when the services industry is making the pivot.
The other question from Sara Jaramillo, a Wiseliner. What key changes or initiatives do you plan to implement in Colombia?
Very interesting. So Colombia needs to, and we've discussed this when I was there with some of the leaders. Colombia is one of the is as important as anybody in any other area, but it's parallel to, is kind of a second location in terms of size after Mexico. So we need to strengthen Colombia to build local community. So it's basically about building and investing in the market to build the employer brand. So that's what I'm excited. We have this program we call Colombia 500, which is 500 people by the end of next year. Hopefully it happens. It's potentially an aspirational number, but I'm really hoping that we can actually grow Colombia. I know that the talent is great. I've seen good leadership. I trust Daniel. I think that things are looking up for you guys in Colombia. So I'm putting a lot of attention and investment in making sure that you have executive attention, also resources to develop and scale.
Amazing. Another question from our audience is, what is the personal skill that made you so successful, your differentiator? And what advice can you give to enhance that skill?
Well, all success is relative. So, I mean, relative to that, depends on what dimension you measure success. Um, I think I've always been so ambitious. I've been ambitious. Ambition is good when it's healthy, but I always want kind of, desire to build value and learn. And that's probably where it is. But it's just genuine value creation at the end of the day pays off, and it's more of an attitude. Skill set, I mean, I've always been communicative. I mean, you hear me talking, I like to talk, but I think that what drives me more is about just building, innovating, just building real value.
Perfect. Another question from Paulina Covarrubias, Wiseliner. What work habits do you think that are fundamental to achieve professional success?
Yeah, so definitely you want to have purpose, right? You want to hone your skills to acquire that mastery. You want to always perfect how you do what you do in your role. Communication is essential. I mean, it's not just about you, it's about the team. purpose is just why are you doing it? I mean, there has to be a purpose. If you don't have that purpose, it's very difficult to develop into this greatness and growth mindset. So I would say that, that mastery, that desire to perfect what you do and coach, and seek for coaching, get training all the time, and just basically always ask and pull the organization for more and more and more is desire. And it depends on how big you want to get, but ambition is, for me, is like drive, or but ambition for something positive is what actually moves you. And just in the morning, I'm just going to do this, and that's something that not everybody has, but if you have a little, maximize it. Yeah.
Perfect. And the last question, because I know that we don't have uh, no time left right now. What's the biggest challenge that you have faced in your career? Maybe something.
Well, I mean, more because of career, but personal, moving has been, for me, which seems, well, I moved so many times in my life that, it started to have ripple effects in my family,
Well,
which affects career, because you really need to pay attention to that, without giving details. But it's probably caused by uprooting ourselves. Just pursuing career, it impacts your personal life, and then you have to take care of that, and then that impacts career. So I've had to, go through that, and I have 4 children, so it's not that
well,
I'm a dad of
not
4
easy.
kids. So it's been the 4 of them have been impacted differently, and we had to do remedy situations because of the frantic, or how we say, the drive and the ambition of, and what my career took me, right?
Well,
So sometimes you got to consider, if you're a family person, how that impacts your life, right? And how far you want to go.
yeah, definitely a big challenge, and thank you for sharing. Andres, this is the end of the interview. Thank you very much for your time. I know your time is very valuable, and well, I hope that the audience really watches this carefully and listens to it, because the idea of this is to help you grow and grow in your careers. So thank you very much, Andres, for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, everyone.